What is up, my friends and family? Welcome to the second installment of the Accutane Handbook. This is a series that I'm putting on every other Monday on my channel that I'm basically just addressing all the most common questions, all the questions that pop up to your head when you think of whether or not you're going to take Accutane, because there are so many to cover and it's so hard to go around the internet scavenging, trying to find, this answer, then that answer. I think it's gonna be great to have a central location where you can just learn about anything and everything that, I have experienced from taking Accutane for over 70 weeks. So if your question wasn't answered in this episode, make sure you leave your question in the comments below so that it can be addressed in future episodes. But first question that comes to the episode this week is, do you think that letting your facial hair grow out will help you not break out as much? Now, I personally, when I was having a lot more acne, I was having a lot more redheads and whiteheads pop up all the time, like on a consistent basis, whereas now I'm not having that happen as much anyways. But when I was having that happen, so it'd be a good time to actually decide whether facial hair was helping or not. Facial hair actually did help. Believe it or not, it did. When I would let my beard grow out a little bit, not like full beardage, because I can't even do that anyways, it would take me forever. But when I let like my stubble like this, but maybe even a little bit more, it would help me break out less. And I think the science behind this is that the hairs are pushing through the follicles, right, in your skin, but that's also causing there to be an open passageway for your sebum fluid, the stuff that causes acne. That's the white cream stuff of your zits. A little gross there, but that stuff is able to fluently move out of your face instead of clogging pores and then getting bigger underneath that clogged pore, because there's a little hair going through that clogged pore and now the pore is not clogged. Now this next question relates to one of the super side effects, is what I call them. Those are the ones that you hear in the news and the stories and stuff, because you only hear the bad stuff, you never hear the good stuff, right? So you're hearing that, Accutane causes you to have irritable bowel syndrome and erectile dysfunction and like all this crazy stuff, suicidal depression thoughts and stuff. And yes, all of those side effects are very possible. 100% could happen. But they don't often happen. It's not like they're the most common thing. They're just the ones that you hear about the most often. Anyways, the question that's asked here is, have you ever experienced a low sex drive or erectile dysfunction while on Accutane? Because this is one that floats around the internet all the time. Of course, guys are worried about whether or not they're gonna be able to use their dick when they're taking Accutane. How much would that suck if you weren't able to have sex because you took something to clean your face? It's terrible. Anyways, I was on it for, 70 weeks or so, and I can say from my personal experience that I had no difference in sex drive or in actual performance. I was able to get erect when I wanted to, and it was no problem. I know that's a little TMI for some people watching, but I'm just trying to clear this up because it is a very scary thought. It's a very scary thing to think about when you're like, oh, I'm gonna try to take Accutane to clear my face. I may have problems in the future. It's kind of scary. But me personally, I did not have that issue. And I would say if you're concerned about it, you should probably talk to your doctor and then really make a wise, educated decision on whether or not you're going to hop on to Accutane. Congrats for getting off of Accutane. Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. And then he follows up with saying, you can't take whey. You said you can't take whey protein. It breaks you out. So what other alternative protein sources have you decided to use? Now, personally, I really enjoy all the weird plant proteins. I used to really hate them. I used to think they were really terrible, like the powdered brown rice, the powdered pea protein, stuff like that. But it's pretty good. And the reason I say it's pretty good too is I mix my proteins into my oatmeal. I don't necessarily drink my powdered proteins. If I need to use powdered proteins, I don't actually often use powdered proteins in the first place because they're expensive as hell, but I'll put them in my oatmeal, so I kind of lose the flavor anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So like hemp, brown rice, and pea protein are probably my favorites. Yeah, I'd say those are my favorites. And then there's soy protein, which I stay away from just because of the soy estrogenic properties. I do eat soy in general, but I decide, like, why would I supplement it even further for no reason if I could just buy a different powder that does the same thing, same macros I need. So I would say try one of those, or egg protein powder. All four of those things are good alternatives that didn't break me out when I was taking any of those. I just started Accutane a few weeks ago, and now my face gets really itchy, and when I do decide to itch it, it gets extremely red. Why is this? Is this something normal? Am I gonna be experiencing red skin all the time? This is completely normal. This is something that happened to me as well. I was more itchy in general, and I think that has to do with the fact that you're more dry. Your skin's more dry, right? You're not as moist, so your dry skin is hitting, pieces of other dry skin. I mean, you can't see this microscopic, boys and girls, but it's all folding on each other, and then that causes you to be itchy, right? So then you're like, oh, I'll itch. Right? But then because you're on Accutane, your skin is much more sensitive, and that was something that I experienced to a T. My skin was so sensitive, like to the point that like, oh, I'm just gonna itch my arm. And then there would be like this huge 4-finger claw mark that looks like I just fought the X-Men or something like that. So yeah, you can probably expect to be more sensitive when you're on Accutane as far as your skin goes, and probably be a lot more red. For example, also like rosacea problems will probably be more pronounced while you're taking Accutane, because my rosacea, I think it's, I don't know if you really call it rosacea, but we know when you get hot and you get flushed, but you get like that kind of weird red speckly. A lot of people get it on their faces, people get it everywhere, but mine personally is on my shoulders and the top of my chest. And so if I get hot and kind of cold, I guess, I don't really understand it completely, but I'll have this weird speckled, like my skin will be this color, but then on it will be these red speckles, these blotches everywhere, and people get all freaked out about it. They're like, oh, that's so crazy, are you okay? Are you okay? Oh bro, that must be so weird to live with them. It's like, who cares, man? Like, the only person that's concerned in this situation right now is you about my problem, and I totally don't care. So it's like, you know, I'm not really sure where this all went. This is a convoluted answer, but yes, you will be more sensitive most likely when you're on Accutane. While on Accutane, have you experienced any joint pains, and will I experience joint pains when I'm on Accutane? The answer is, it depends on the person. Joint pain is something that is a more common side effect. Like, so you hear about the crazy stuff like suicidal depression and irritable bowel syndrome and stuff. That's more of like a very rarely occurring side effect. But I don't know what I'm doing with my hand here, I'm scared. But joint pain is one of the most common side effects. And when I first started Accutane, I was relatively joint painless. So that was one of the things I was harping on in my series, was I was just saying, oh yeah, luckily I don't have too much joint pain. But then it actually hit me about, I'd say about 2 months in, I started getting joint pain. And from that point on, I had joint pain from every week. But it wasn't, for me personally, it wasn't like deadly pain. It wasn't like really sharp. Like, you know, when you feel like your knee has some sort of problem with your ACL or something. You feel like there's something in there that's like pinging away, like really stinging and hurting. It wasn't like that. It was more like a very dull, light pain that was kind of like there, and then it would go away once I actually started warming up and stuff. But it was like, when I was stiff and cold, I would be more stiff and cold, and I'd be a little bit more apt and sensitive to the pain. But that's pretty much it. It wasn't debilitating. I was still able to like squat and deadlift and bench and pull downs, everything. I was able to do anything and everything. It was just like a slight bit more pain. And this is one of the most common questions I ever get, and one that I actually was very interested in the beginning, of course, because I mean, everyone has to address this, is, will Accutane help get rid of your scars, right? Because Accutane is for getting rid of your acne and making your face more dry and stuff like that, but does it contribute to actually covering the scars from previous acne? I wish that it did, but unfortunately, personally, I don't think it does. I think it gets rid of your inflammation. I think it gets rid of your redness, things like that, which will make your scars less pronounced. Because think about it, if you have a divot in your face, but then at the end of the divot you have a mountain, it makes the divot bigger because there's mountains on each side. So you get rid of the mountains, and then you literally just have the divot. So then it looks a lot better. Oh, it looks so much better. Like, people will say, the reason people ask me these questions so often is because they're like, hey, I thought you had like a lot of scars to take care of, and it looks like you don't have as much scarring as I thought. I still do have a decent amount of scarring. I do have a pretty decent amount. Yeah, I agree. I thought I was gonna have way worse, especially if you look back at how bad my acne was, especially the cystic stuff that would like explode and stuff. You would think there'd be huge holes, but luckily Accutane has gotten rid of all the sensitivity and the swelling, like I said earlier, so it has made it look less pronounced, my scars. So you can't really look at Accutane as getting rid of your scars, but it'll help them be less pronounced, and then you can address your scars, which I'm also going to do very soon after the Olympia, with a derma roller, a derma pen, a laser surgery, all sorts of different things that you can do to help better your face and your scars. And if you guys have any suggestions, because I know you guys are king on this, I am just giving my advice and what I've experienced, but I'm not the best. I don't know everything. If you guys have any suggestions on how to help people's scars clear up, or how to address your scars after you're off Accutane, please leave them in the comments, because I know people look through them. I know they do. So you are helping more people than you think by leaving that comment. All right, guys, there is the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I love making these. I sincerely love making these, because I know that this is going to be something that people will reference in the future and be able to come back and back to and learn and figure out and make wise decisions about what they want to do based off of answers that they've gotten from here. So if you guys have any more questions, because I'm going to do this for another, I believe, 2 episodes, going to have 4, maybe 5 episodes total, please leave your questions below. I do this episode every other week, so not next week, but the week after that, and I appreciate the questions because it obviously is something that you want to hear and probably many other people want to hear about. So leave the questions below. I'll give you the answers. I appreciate anyone and everyone who asked a question for this episode and was featured. I really do appreciate that. That's awesome. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Share it with your friends who might need some information about Accutane, especially anybody who's like, you know, considering Accutane. Comment, let me know what you think about this. And if you're not subscribed to the channel already, make sure you subscribe. It really helped me out. I appreciate you guys coming in here and checking out the video. Team Beyond the Week, CT.
Lift heavy or die, MIRIN, motherfucker.